Well, you know, I'm trying to work on two stagecoaches that ran in Yellowstone Park in the early 1900s. I have an 8-passenger here and an 11-passenger here. This is the main frame and the flooring, and I need to start going up into the body. And what I'm going to do next is construct the framework for the seat, oftentimes called the box, that the driver sits on, and usually another person as well. So there would be two up here. On this 8-passenger, there is a seat that sits here and one in the back. So there's 3 to a seat, 3, 6, and the 2 is 8. And likewise on the 11-passenger, there's 3 seats behind the driver. So there's 9 there and 2 with the driver and the passenger up there. Sometimes maybe the shotgunner, but on these touring coaches, they didn't have the typical shotgunner like Hollywood has made famous. It would be just an extra passenger up there. So that is an 11 and this is an 8-passenger. So I have some remnants of old driver's box left off of the 8-passenger that'll kind of give us a clue of what that style needs to be. So what was left of this driver's box is this panel here, which would actually be the back of the driver's box, and this is the right side panel that would set about in this position here. Something about like so. That's all that is left of the driver's box on this coach. I also have this driver's box that is off of another 11-passenger coach that I restored years ago. It actually has the top frame, part of the seat frame. On this one it has the left side, and this is the rear panel, the same style of the 11-passenger that I'm going to rebuild. But this one is a little more intact and it gives us a little more of the style of the framework, and you can see that this back panel stops short of the framing that goes down into the main frame. And inside the box has this little sloped floorboard here, and what this does, it allows a little open space underneath this box, so it gives some more foot room for that first seat that is in the body. And on the left side of this box, you can see that there is this curved framework here that actually ties the box back down to the main frame, a long sweeping curve. It's not completely there on the other one that I have off of the 11-passenger. But you can see a portion of it is here. The bottom portion that comes down into the main frame is actually missing. But this is that same curved piece. So the driver's box styling has changed over the years that I have noticed on the coaches I've restored. The early ones, which would have been late 1800s, it didn't have this curved panel up here. It would have come up straight, and it came down and then curved into the body. But these newer ones tended to have the curve here up underneath the driver's box itself. So this style on the back of the driver's box is a newer style. The earlier ones, this came straight up. And also this back panel went clear down to the floor instead of having an open space for the toes or the feet of the passengers in that front seat. And you can also see on the right side framework here, there is an ironwork that braces through the framework and then back down to the main frame, gives stability to this frame. And then also there are 2 long bolts that go from the seat frame down through the main frame that also anchors this whole box to the main frame. So this driver's box is really pretty secure. So a few moments ago I mentioned that the box remnants that I have on my table saw was from an 8-passenger, and actually that was from the 11-passenger. These parts here that I cut out some 30 years ago are patterns off of an 8-passenger, and these are the framework of that driver's box that I have left actually off of that 8-passenger coach. This is the actual framework, and then I cut a pattern for that curved piece that comes down and ties it into the main framework. So with the combination of this and my 11 passenger and the other 11 passenger that I did years ago, I think I can come up with the pattern for the driver's box that'll accommodate both of these coaches. So if I take these that I know are off of my 8 passenger and line them up against my 11 passenger, you can see that my heights are the same, the styling is the same. And if I turn this over, this pattern here, well, it's a little bit different than what this one is. See, this one continues the curve, whereas this one comes up straight and has a curve back here. So there is a little difference in that style. I'll check it against this other one as well. Yeah, different style there also. This one is more like the 11 that I have on my table saw as opposed to this style. But it does bring up that point that they are not always the same. There were some variations and some transitions through the time frame that these were made. So I think the basic style of the framework is the same. The widths are going to be a little different between the 8 and 11. So then some of the placement of my joint work might be a little different between the two. So I will have to keep that distinction between the two coaches. So a lot of this framing, I can sort through my pieces in my scrap room. I have some pieces here that are 1¼ inch thick, which I need for these frames. These are the centers of the main frames. Remember, I had to cut out kind of a belly to them. Well, this is what I cut out, and they happen to be 1¼ inch. So I can get a couple of these out of these pieces and make use of those. And then I have another piece here that I should be able to get my other 2 pieces out of. So that'll make my 4 frames for my 2 driver's boxes. And these frames will be the back of the driver's box, and they're going to sit in here somewhere about so. I still have to notch these in to joint them into the framework, but they're going to sit about like so. So you can see this framework has a little bit of a bow to it from age and fatigue. I'm actually going to straighten that out as it should be straight. Even though I'm using this bent one, I'm using it because it's already been separated out. I would have to dismantle this other one to use that as a pattern. I think I can use this one. So this is actually 1¼ inch square. I'm going to start out with 1, make sure I have that correct, and then I'll use it as a pattern for my other 3. So I have these matched up as pairs, one for the 8 and one for the 11. So now I need the front leading edge of this box, and these I already have cut out in my pile of 8-passenger ones. They seem to be the same, so I can use these as a pattern to make 2 more for the 11-passenger. So from the front vertical frame to the rear vertical frame, there is a cross frame. Also is 1 1/4 inch square, and it needs to go from the leading edge of this front to the rear edge of this sweeping curve here. So I need a framework that is about 14 inches long, 1 1/4 inch square. And then there's 2 cross frames. One goes laterally this direction and the other one goes lateral, but it is vertical. This is vertical and this one is horizontal. This one needs to be about that 15/16 by 3 or so. And this one about 1 3/4 inch, and this is usually a 3/4 inch piece that goes across. And the only difference here between this 11-passenger and the 8-passenger is going to be in the width. So this 8-passenger is going to be 38 3/8 in width. And this 11 is going to be 39 1/2. So just a little over 1 inch difference. And this is where my salvage room here is going to come in handy. There are quite a number here that are just right at 2 7/8 to 2 15/16. that I think will work if I've got a couple that are at that inch. There's one that's 15/16. There's a 15/16. There's a 13/16. Another 13/16. So I could use these. I think these two would go for the front cross member. So that'll work for that one. That'll work for the rear. So these will work for the two cross members for both coaches. So these two I need to bring down to 1 3/4 inches. So there's my 8-passenger. That'll be my 11-passenger. So in the middle of this driver's box, in the middle of this back panel, there are two verticals that match the shape of the side upright framework, but they don't go clear to the floor like the side ones do. There is a cross framework that comes down here at the bottom of this rear panel to allow for this open space for the feet or the toes of the passengers in the first seat. So these middle braces only come down this far. So from the top down, looks like we're at 23 inches. But overall, they'll have the same shape here as these side vertical frames do. And we can see the same configuration on these two center braces off of this back panel that is off of the 11-passenger body that we're working on. And they are 1 inch by 23, so these are the same. So the last framing I need to make is down here at the bottom of these center braces. This goes clear across and is jointed into these as well as to the end braces. These are just tacked in individually. They're not actually jointed in because there is a splice in the rear boards here, but I need this frame here as well. And this one needs to be 1.25 inches wide, and it's going to be 1 inch thick. And I've got some tall, narrow stuff back here. If I have enough here to get both of them. Need roughly 80 inches. Oh, that one there will make both of them. One at 39.5. One at 38 3/8. And a quick pass at 1.25 inches to make sure they're the same. So just a quick check, make sure I've got everything. These are going to be my 2 center braces for the center of the box panel. These are going to be the rear of the driver's box. These will be the front. We're going to set about like so. And then I have all of this. This is going to be the cross frame here. These will be the cross frame here, there. Of course, there's one for each side. This will be the horizontal that stands vertical in front. And this will be the cross frame that stands horizontal in the rear. And of course I've got all this for that 11 passenger as well. This is the front of the driver's box. This is the rear of the driver's box. These are the top frames on each of the vertical frames. These are the sides that go in front. These are the sides that go in the rear. We have these 2 that support in the center of the frame. And then this is the cross frame that goes at the bottom of the panel. So I think we're complete. So a lot of these joints are 3-way joints. We have a vertical, we have 2 horizontals all coming into these verticals on all 4 corners, and then a lot of lap joints in here, and this all gets jointed into the main frame. But I think we'll get into that next week. This should be our parts, and it's mostly from my scrap pile that I have in the back, my back room where I collect all this stuff. Generally, I save anything that is about 16 inches long and substantial, and this is where I use a lot of that. Building a Stagecoach from junk? Well, it's not really junk, it's just from my scrap pieces. Anyway, appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.